Hey all, welcome to Parker's Reef Product Spotlights. Today I'm going to show you how to combine your KH Keeper with a Reef Factory dosing by 3 pump to automate all of your alkalinity, calcium and magnesium supplementation. Alright guys, thank you for joining me on another product spotlight brought to you by Aquaristic Online. And I have to say, over the last few months I've had a heap of people asking me how my KH Keeper is operating, and to be honest I have to tell them it's going fine. Like, it's a good, accurate, simple to use with a well-built app, automated alkalinity tester, and that was kind of where I thought the journey ended. Now, it's only been the last couple of weeks that I unboxed and tested out a dosing pump ×3 from Reef Factory that the penny really dropped for me, and how their whole ecosystem works together and how easy it is to build some automations. Now, the team at Aquaristic Online wanted me to share with you the 4 steps I take to completely automate your alkalinity, calcium and magnesium supplementation based off the results from your KH Keepers. So I figured we may as well jump into it. Let's go with step 1. Alright, step 1 probably goes without saying. That is, you need to have your KH Keeper up and running and have your defined, accepted KH range. So for me, I'm going to say that I'm aiming between 7.8 and 8.0 DKH. That's all I need to do. For best results, I recommend leaving the KH Keeper run for a week or two just to really get in its rhythm, make sure that that probe is fully settled in, all of your lines are flushed out, and you're getting repeatable and accurate results just before you go building automations off those results. Alright, now that I've worked out my desired range for DKH, I've also got out a little bit of paper and made note of a couple of ranges just above and below that range, which we'll use to automate things a little bit later. So for me, we're looking to aim between 7.8 and 8.0. So things from 8.01 to 8.2 is just a bit above where I want to be, and everything above 8.21 DKH is well above where I want to be. Likewise, on the lower side, anything between 7.6 and 7.79 is just marginally below where I want to be, and anything from 7.4 to 7.59 is much lower than where I want to be. I've made a note of those ranges on this bit of paper and we'll refer to those later. Alright, step 2 after that is to set up your dosing pump ×3 and to put in your base dosage, if any at all. So for me, I set my dosing pump by 3 up, and I set each of the channels up to run 80 ml a day. So what I've done there is I've got the supplements that I'm dosing, alkalinity, calcium, magnesium, all mixed to the strength that allows me to dose equal parts of each, which is fairly common in some of the programs that are out there. But I've set them up and I've got them to dose 80 ml a day each as a base value. Alright, step 3 is to set those dosage times to be 1 hour after the tests from the KH Keeper. So my KH Keeper is testing 4 times a day, and that goes between 6 AM, 12 AM, 6 PM and 12 PM. So what I've done is I've set my dosing to go an hour after that, and I have also built in a little offset between alkalinity, calcium and magnesium of 10 minutes apart for each channel. So these will then dose at 7 AM, 1 PM, 7 PM and 1 AM with a 10-minute offset between alkalinity, calcium and magnesium. Alright, the 4th and final step where all of the magic happens and the automation takes place is done either on your phone or at your computer, but for me it's going to be easier to showcase this with you on my computer, so let's jump there now. Alright, now to build these actions you could do it through the app itself on your phone, but I find it easier to jump onto my computer, go to the website and then go into my own Smart Reef dashboard here. You can see all the devices I've got hooked up at the moment, and gives me quick access to all of them. But most importantly for us is this section over here, actions. So I'm going to click on that. And you can see currently I have no actions built. Maybe that's because I cleared them out so I could do them as a demonstration on this video, but we're going to start at the low end and then work our way up. So that 7.4 to 7.5 range, I'm now going to add an action for that. So when my KH Keeper tests between 7.4 and then I'm going to go up to 7.59, then I want my dosing pump ×3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick, I've got the choice between additional milliliters or an additional percentage of the last dose. I personally like the additional percentage. You could go additional mils if you wanted to, but I'm going to go percentage of the last dose. And what I'm going to enter here, I'm going to add an extra 75%. I'm going to add a 0-minute delay, and then I'm going to click OK. Now, what I can do, because I want to dose alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium, I'm going to add an additional task to this action, which is basically to add in those extra 2 pumps. So I'm going to add a task, going to select dosing pump 3, going to add a dosing pump B, add an additional percentage, 75. I'm going to add a 10-minute delay so we're not dosing at the same time as the alkalinity, and then go OK. You see we've now got our alk doing an additional 75% of the last dose, our calcium doing an additional 75% of the last dose 10 minutes later, and you guessed it, last but not least, we're going to add an additional 75% of magnesium as well, and I'm going to do that 20 minutes later. That's it. Save, and our first action is complete. So when our KH value comes back between 7.40 and 7.59, it's going to then fire off our 3 dosing pumps to do an additional 75% of the last dose across 0 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, job done. Going to add another action now. So we're going to go when our KH keeper is between 7.60 and 7.79. I then want our dosing pump by 3, dosing pump A to do an additional percentage of the last dose. This time I'm going to dial things back. Let's make it 25%, 0 minute delay. Okay, now I'm going to replicate that across the calcium and magnesium pumps. Dosing pump 3, B, 25%, 10-minute delay. Okay, and you guessed it, last but not least, we're going to do the magnesium for the same amount. Additional 25%, 20-minute delay, and we're good. So we've got dosing pump A, 25, 25, 25, 0, 10, 20. Save that, all good. Now next up would be our ideal range, which is the 7.8 to 8.0. I'm not going to add an action for that because I want the actual dosing to remain the same. Don't want it to make any more dosage or any less dosage. Things are in the sweet spot, so stay where they are. But when things get above that, when we go up to 8.01 to the 8.2 range, I want to dose less to bring it back into our 7.8 to 8.0 range. So I'm going to add an action for that. When our KH keeper is between 8.01 and 8.2, then I want our dosing pump 3 to skip part of the next dose. Now I want it to skip 25%. Perfect. I want to add a task to that. Dosing pump 3, I want to do the same thing for calcium. Skip 25% of the next dose. Okay. And again, magnesium, skip part of the next dose, 25%. Okay. So when we get a little bit above our range, we're going to skip a quarter of the next dose. Hopefully that'll be enough to just bring it back into range. But of course, if it tests above 8.21, we want it to skip a lot more than that. So let's go when our KH keeper is above. This time it's just straight above 8.21. Then dosing pump 3, skip part of the next dose, 100% of it. Okay, add a task, dosing pump 3, we'll do the same for magnesium, skip 100%. Now, of course, these percentages you can dial in. If you wanted to make it so that you weren't skipping the entire amount, totally understandable. But you can play around with these values to get what you need. But I'm going to show you the basic sort of schedule I've got here. And of course, you could also narrow these ranges down and change these percentages. So if you wanted to have one for every 0.05 of DKH to very fine tune it in, you could. You can continually build these rules and actions out. But what you can see here is that when our value is above 8.21, skip the entire next dose of both alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium. When it's a little bit above our range, skip a quarter of the next dose of alkalinity, calcium, magnesium. And then of course, when it's below by a little bit, we want to add 25% more dosage of both alkalinity, calcium, magnesium. And of course, when it's much below our set range, add an additional 75% of alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium. We've now got a fully automated system based off our KH Keeper results for both alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium. Plus, if you're running something like the Aquaforest or Coral Essentials or some other program that has trace elements in, you're also matching your trace elements. Now, This program was set up so that our ranges are kept identical because the values have been, the liquids have been mixed up to be the same amount added. But if you're running something that requires less calcium or less magnesium or something like that, you could play with your percentages here as well. But what I would like to do, I keep my ratios here the same, but then I play with the dosing pump values. So I could come into here, if I dosed more alkalinity than I did, say, calcium, I could edit that here. So I've got in here that we're dosing 80 ml a day across 4 doses, and I've set that up at that time that I discussed of 1 p.m., 7 p.m., 1 a.m. and 7 a.m. and that does 25% at a time each day of the week. Now, if I wanted to dose less calcium, for instance, I could simply come in here and edit that so that instead of dosing 80 milliliters a day, it could do 40 milliliters a day, and it could spread it across there. Those percentage actions would remain exactly the same because it's dosing a percentage of its previous dosage amount, if that makes sense. It sounds a little bit complex at first, but once you get your head around it and you see how easy it is to click and set up these rules that are incredibly powerful, I think it makes a lot of sense, and it just dials everything in perfectly. All right, guys, there you have it. That is how simple it is to build some actions and automate your alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium dosing using the Reef Factory ecosystem. And like I said, the penny really dropped for me. This is a fantastic little KH tester, but it really goes to another level when you start to add things like the dosing pump by 3. But it doesn't just have to be the dosing pump by 3. You can add individual doses if you wanted to. You could add a dosing pump large or any of the rest of the Reef Factory range. And that's before I even start getting super excited about the upcoming releases from Reef Factory, especially their all-in-one tester. My mind boggles at the thought of testing phosphate and then as an action based on the result from phosphate, deciding how much automatic water change to do via the large dosing pumps. It gets completely out of hand, but completely up my alley because I am a gadget freak when it comes to reef tanks, and the automations based around this system just makes things work very, very easy, whether you're a gadget freak or not. Other than that, guys, I will wrap the video up there. If you would like to check out the Reef Factory range of products, be sure to jump onto Aquaristic Online. They've got a huge range with some very, very good prices. They do post Australia-wide, and of course, they did sponsor this video, so please support those who support the channel. If you've got any questions, comments, feedback, pop it in the comment section down below. I do personally reply to each and every one there, so it is the best way to get hold of me. Other than that, guys, till next time, I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay safe, keep reefing. Bye.